Alright, we're back. For this lesson we have solving using square roots. So we're going to solve this equation here. 36v squared plus 8 equals 17. You could factor this, but notice there is no v term, there's a v squared term, and then there's whole numbers, but there's no v. So in that sense we can actually totally surpass having to factor it. We can actually do it a different way. So in this case I want to get the v squared term by itself, so plus 8 is what I need to get rid of. So I undo adding with subtracting, so I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides of the equal sign, and that gets me 36v squared equals, and then 17 minus 8 is 9. So I have the v squared term by itself, but I don't want that 36 there. I want v squared by itself. So I'm going to get rid of the 36. So to get rid of the 36, I need to divide both sides by 36. And so the 36's cancel on this side. You might notice 36 divided by 36 is 1, and 1 times v squared is just v squared. So that gets us v squared by itself. So that's why we divided by 36. So we get v squared equals, and then 9 goes into 36 evenly. And that goes into 36 evenly 4 times. So 9 times 4 is 36, so we get 1/4. But we want to get v by itself. We don't want to just know what v squared equals. We want to know what v equals. So we're going to have to square root. Square root undoes a square. So to square root both sides, we're just going to put that in. And if you do recall, square and a square root, although they do cancel each other out, it is kind of like an absolute value in this sense. So we actually need to add in here a plus or minus on the other side. So it's going to be plus or minus the square root of 1/4. So our answer is, technically v is equal to plus or minus the square root of 1/4. But I'm not happy with that answer, because I know that I can simplify it. The square root of any number that's a fraction, we can change it to be equal to the square root of the number in the numerator divided by the square root of the number in the denominator. So I'm going to do that next. I'm going to just move on over here, and I'm going to have v equals plus or minus the square root of 1 over the square root of 4. And the reason I do this is because I know what the square root of 1 is, and I know what the square root of 4 is. The square root of 1, well, that's just 1. 1 times 1 is 1, so the square root of 1 is 1. So now I've got v equals plus or minus 1 over, and then the square root of 4. Well, the square root of 4 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4, and so that's the definition of a square root, is what number times itself equals 4. So I get v equals plus or minus 1/2, and I am done. So that's both a positive 1/2 and a negative 1/2 are the solutions. Okay, we're going to move on. So this next one is solving using the zero product property. So this is already factored for us, and that makes us happy. The zero product property, if you don't recall, just states that if a times b equals 0, then either a equals 0 or b equals 0. Well, in this case, we have r minus 7 times r minus 1 equals 0. Well, r minus 7 is just a. R minus 1 is just b. A times b equals 0. Well, then a equals 0 or b equals 0. So we can rewrite this. And we'll get a different color going here. So in this case, I have r minus 7 equals 0, or r minus 1 equals 0. And that's just using the zero product property. So now I can solve each of these for r. So I can add 7 to both sides of the equal sign to get r by itself. Since I'm solving for r, I'm getting r by itself. R equals 7. Or I can add 1 to both sides of the equal sign and get r equals 1. So there's two answers to this problem. Just like the first one that we did where we got v is equal to plus or minus 1/2, that was two different answers, either positive 1/2 or negative 1/2. In this case we have two different answers. They're just not opposites of each other. They're both positive numbers, they're just different numbers. So 1 and 7 are the answers to r. So we're done with that problem. Alright, last one. Last problem, solving using the quadratic formula. So hopefully you remember the quadratic formula, something that a lot of you were able to say just from memory. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I'll go ahead and write that down. That is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And so we just need to remember what is a, b, and c. Remember, our formula needs to be equal to 0. So our formula, as far as our general statement, is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So in this case, a is 4, b is 2, and c is negative 42. Okay? So we're going to plug these in. So everywhere I see b, I need to plug in 2. Everywhere I see c, I need to plug in negative 42. And everywhere I see a, I need to plug in a 4. So I'm just going to rewrite this formula one more time, but plug in the numbers. So I have negative 2 plus or minus. Notice it was 2, but negative b. So we're going to turn this negative. If it was a negative, it would have made it positive. Okay. Square root of 2 squared minus 4 times a. A is 4 times c, which is negative 42. All over 2 times a is 4 again. So there we go. Alright, so now it's just simplifying. So I'm just going to go ahead and go down the list and try to simplify this as much as possible. So I'm going to get negative 2 plus or minus the square root. And I want 2 squared is 4. And then 2 negatives, so it's a negative 4 times a negative 42 times a positive 4. So 2 negatives make a positive, so it is going to be plus. And 42 times 4, see, I'm going to just have to double it twice, times 4, so 8,468 times another 4. So I might want to actually do a little math here. 168 times 4 more, because there was 2 4s. So 42 times 4, 168, and then times 4 again. So 32, carry the 3. 24 plus 3 is 27. Carry the 2. And then 4 plus 2 is 6. So 672. All over 8. Okay. Now I'm going to add them together. So 672 plus 4 is 676. So I get negative 2 as my answer. Negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 676 over 8. And I don't remember what 676 square rooted is off the top of my head, so I need to figure that out. So give me a second here. So I'm going to plug that into my calculator. And I get 26. So the square root of 676 is 26. So this is negative 2 plus or minus 26 over 8. Okay. So then we've got two different answers here. We've got negative 2 plus 26, which would be 24 over 8. So we've got k. K is our original variable, so k equals 24 over 8, or negative 2 minus 26 is negative 28 over 8. Okay, and 8 goes into 24 3 times, so I do know that k equals 3, or negative 28 divided by 8 is simplifiable, but it's not going to be a nice number. 14 over 4, 7 over 2. So negative 7 over 2. Which we could change into a decimal, 3.5. Either way, it's a negative. Negative 7 halves is a good answer, so I'm just going to circle that. And I'm done with that. So if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you so much. Have a good day.